Republicans right now in this period of instability are focusing on Netflix for having a Coco Melon video from a show that ended years ago that apparently has like a woke baby in it or something. And that's why Republicans are currently focused on canceling Netflix, because they're stupid. I can't stress this enough. They are stupid. If you are looking at an unprecedented economic crisis, the likes that Americans have never experienced, I'm talking Great Depression style shit, okay? The likes that Americans haven't experienced in 100 years, and you are predisposed with woke babies on Coco Melon, you're a moron. You are too stupid to operate a vehicle. That's it. And unfortunately, there are millions of people who are that stupid. But even stupid people understand when they're getting over. So it is pertinent on us and the Democratic Party to explain to them that while they are stupid, they're still getting by the Republicans. That's the job of good governance. That's the job of good leadership. That's the job that the Democrats are failing on. That's it. Like, imagine there's a government shutdown that's going on. $800 billion in healthcare funds is going to be taken away. Almost $1 trillion plus taken away from healthcare that these guys desperately need. And they're talking about canceling their Netflix subscription. I know when you see stuff like that, when you see how hateful little monsters these dipshits have become, I know it feels like it's impossible. It feels like it's impossible to talk to these monstrous pieces of shit because they're so stupid that they're like, nope, I don't care. I'm going to hurt myself and you can't say anything about it, woke libtard. I get it. Having said that, if you care about making people's lives better, you have to convince these people. There's tremendous amounts of enmity towards people that want to advance the material conditions of workers in this country. The media is owned by powerful corporations who have a vested interest in ensuring that the same domineering hierarchies continue. And people are kept sedated, and it's a fairly sophisticated way of doing things for conservatives. The conservative agenda for decades has been to weaken government in an abstract sense so that Americans are too fearful to do the things government is good at, like universal programs. It has worked on the boomers a lot and a lot of the Gen Xers. Yes, Ronald Reagan and his consequences as a singular force in this country are so devastating. Ronald Reagan is the liberal FDR. He is the neoliberal FDR. What FDR and his politics did to America and his policies did to America, Ronald Reagan had the exact opposite effect. I'm not in the business of saying that people are singularly responsible for the American demise, but if there was one figure that is so pivotal that you could point to, it would be Ronald Reagan. Every single graph that tracks how shitty everything is nosedives in the 90s. Do you think that is an accident? Every graph, dude. Like, you look at cost of living, you look at deregulation, you look at like home ownership rates, virtually every single graph that you can point to about ongoing American demise, the starting point is Ronald Reagan. Like a little bit after, you know, for the policies to take place, the deregulatory economics to take place. Now, of course, it didn't start with Ronald Reagan. It certainly didn't. It's still it's capitalism. It always has been and it always will be. But Ronald Reagan as a domestic force was so powerful that it basically restructured both parties dramatically. Yes, I know Carter was bad too, chatters. It's like saying New Deal economics is entirely in the hands of FDR. It's not, right? There were tremendous forces that were pressuring FDR to do the right thing. And there were still limitations. But if you were to reduce it, if you were to make a reductive argument, if you were to reduce it to like a singular force that made the opposing major party damn near concede entirely to full tilt domination, FDR's New Deal era politics dominated American politics for a very long time until Ronald Reagan flipped it. And now Reaganite neoliberalism dominates American politics in the same vein. He's the reason college is so expensive. He's the reason we have conservative think tanks. He's the reason we have trickle down. He's the reason we have the war on drugs. He's the reason AIDS became such an issue. He's the reason why stock buybacks are no longer illegal. All corporate consolidation in this country that was already happening, but like the complete corporate capture and the complete corporate consolidation you have seen comes from the Reagan era, the last breath that the unions had taken away under the Reagan era.
Directly ruin your life. Once upon a time, a bunch of rich people sat in a room. One of them said, damn, I hate paying taxes. Another one said, bro, me too. They said, you know what we need to do, right? We need to hire somebody to convince poor people to pay more taxes while we pay less taxes. They said, that'll never work. Someone said, wait a second, I might know a guy. But you see, at this time, Ronald Reagan was a General Electric spokesperson. He was really good at convincing poor people to do whatever the rich company General Electric wanted.
Hey man, Slick Willie did a lot to help that along. Credit where credit is due. Dude, I know. But everyone that comes after Reagan, Democrat or Republican, is still absolutely following through on the attitude change. If you're thinking about like Nixon, if you're thinking about people that came before, sure, they played a role in this as well. But Ronald Reagan was the point of no return. Like Bill Clinton's neoliberal anti-welfare policies, sure, I'm sure he was like super invested in that personally. He's a piece of shit. But like Bill Clinton was responding to what he perceived as the public pressure to Ronald Reagan, because Ronald Reagan did put up LeBron numbers. You're forgetting. Ronald Reagan actually did have that popular mandate.
But before that, he was a Democrat, an activist, very anti-racism, all for workers' rights. They said, hey, bro, we need to hire you for the opposite side. He said, you think I'm a... They said, here's a bag. He said, when do I start? You see, he took this job because his acting career was failing. So he said, hey, I'm pretty good at this. So he ran for governor of California. He won.
He was also the head of SAG-AFTRA, or SAG at the time. They hadn't consolidated yet, I think. And as the head of SAG, he literally fucking ratted out communists in his own union. He was a snitch. So even when he was the leader of a prominent union in the country, he used his position to fucking rat out rank and file members with what he perceived as having radical politics.
Remember, his only jobs at this point were acting and convincing poor people to do what rich people want. Loved him. He was the perfect storm. They called him the great communicator. One of his exact words were, send those welfare bums back to work. They said, Reagan. He said, but you like how I said that? No, they said, he could do no wrong. So it's only natural he becomes president of the United States. He says, okay, as my first act, I'm going to take the rich people's taxes from 70%. Yeah, fun fact, people like Elon Musk paid 70% in taxes. He said, I'm going to take it from 70% to about 28%. Everybody said, whoa, that sounds kind of low. He said, no, listen, y'all not hearing me though. He said, here's the plan. They're going to be super rich, and then they're going to want to spend more money on their companies, so then they're going to hire people like you. But people back then weren't dumb. They were like, what? He's like, but we're going to also stop those welfare black people from taking your money too, even though white people took most of the welfare money. They're like, well, I don't like black people that much. Okay, you're keep going. He steps up the charm. He goes, see what happens when I deregulate businesses and let them do what they want. It's going to benefit you in the long run. Well, he lied, but listen closely. They were in a recession at the time. But what economists know is that after a recession, usually is a time of mini prosperity, then back to recession. It cycles. So he knew that the economy was going to go back up because that's the natural cycle. So when the economy starts going back up, he's like, see, I told you. They were like, well, he was right. But in the long run, this happens. Basically, as the economy goes up, everybody starts getting paid more. But from when he became...
Dude, look at that. Every graph is like this, bro. Every fucking graph. No, it's not a natural cycle. I mean, it's somewhat of a natural cycle, basically, under capitalism. It doesn't have to be.
President, everybody started getting paid the same while the economy went way up. What does that mean? Well, the money had to go somewhere, right? And it all went to the rich people. Yeah, right.
Like, isn't that fucking nuts? Like, how do you look at this? How do you look at this equitable, more equitable system and then turn around and go, this is so much better? That's what's so fucking annoying about people nowadays when they talk about like the good old days. What do you mean? The dumbest guy you know is advocating for the good old days, thinking that it was that way because like black people were segregated or some shit. But the real reason why was because they had better redistributive policies. Like, it wasn't socialist by any means, but at least there was more of a more equitable outcomes for everybody. When they talk about the good old days, they're talking about like having decent wages, being able to have one earner in the family and have like 2 kids or 3 kids or even a fucking second family on the side as a secret. Think about how much purchasing power the average dumb fuck American had that they literally could have a second home for a second secret wife on the side, bro. That shit's unheard of. What are we talking about? Think about that. Nowadays, what's unheard of is living in a fucking 1-bedroom apartment by the time you're like 36, 37. That's unheard of. I'm not even talking about owning a home. I'm talking about not having fucking roommates. Okay? So when those people, when those dumb fuck boomers and the lead generation turn around and say, oh man, we got to go back to the good old days, Republicans turn around and say, yeah, that's right. You mean fuck black people, right? Like, you know, no more Mexicans, right? That's what you mean. It's like, and they go, yeah, that's what I mean. That's why things were good, I think. And the cycle fucking continues. Now, of course, boomers and the lead paint generation are obviously better off overall than the generations that come after them. For their position, it's like they don't have a lot of life to live. So it doesn't really matter all that much, but they have like most of the fucking wealth captured or a more equitable distribution of wealth in their generation as opposed to like millennials and Zoomers alike. But that is the design. That is the design that we have currently. The truth you're saying is making me sick.
To the rich people. Yeah, right up until 1980, laws were protecting you a lot more than you think. After hundreds of years of Theodore Roosevelt and Franklin Roosevelt battling, making sure workers have rights, he in one swoop demolishes it and flips it 180. And he was the only person skilled enough to convince poor people that they need to pay more money while rich people pay less. They need to not have workers' rights and rich people can control their rights. And to this day, Reagan's policies still stick. In fact, Donald Trump just copied Ronald Reagan. Yeah, make America great again. That was Ronald Reagan's campaign slogan.
Yep.
He just took it.
It's true.